Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are talking about my latest division templates. I made a video about division templates quite a while ago, and I wanted to share with you the updates that I came up with since then. Now I know the title of this video is a little bit tricky because there is no such a thing as the best division template in Hearts of Iron 4. The division templates that work the best for you may not work the best for someone else. And they don't always work in all situations, but I'm sharing with you what I find to be the most optimal divisions overall. They will always perform well. In certain specific situations, other ones will perform better, but overall, these divisions perform extremely well. Now, I decided to start with the divisions I used for my latest run. I made a guide about the Turkish Empire, in which we became extremely powerful. If you haven't watched it yet, you can find the link up here. And I used only two templates. One offensive and one defensive. That's it. All I used was these two templates. Now, consider that for these templates to give the best results, you want to take the superior firepower doctrine. And you want to go down the right path and then again the right path. This will give insane bonuses to your support artillery and support companies overall. And as you will see very soon, we are going to use them largely, even on our defensive divisions. Now, this is a combat with 10 defensive division. I don't use this to attack, I use these divisions to protect the weaker fronts. And okay, this is a bit of an overkill. We have a lot of support companies in here. But the stats, these stats for a 10 combat with a division template, these are very good stats. Now, if you switch to my 27 combat with template, now you can see that we get to a 403 soft attack total, which is very good on infantry. Now, for your defensive divisions, you want a combat width of 10 because that's the most flexible. That will always work well in any kind of terrain, and you want to have that kind of flexibility on your defensive divisions. As for the support companies, you may not want to have this many, but what you want to have definitely is the engineer company. And you may want to have the anti-air, because if you use these divisions to protect a front where you do not have the air superiority, they are going to benefit a lot from the anti-air support company. The artillery is not absolutely mandatory, but usually I duplicate my regular infantry when I create my defensive infantry, and they already have the artillery by that point of the game. So now let's talk about the offensive 27 combat with infantry divisions. Now, again, we went for maximizing soft attack, so I made use of the same support companies. As for the setup, 9 infantry battalions and 3 artillery battalions. This gives us pretty good organization, HP, and insanely good soft attack. So, this is what you can do with basically any country in the world. You don't need that much, you don't need a very strong industry. You do need to produce quite a lot of artillery for this to work. But that's it. You don't need to research tanks, you don't need to research anything else. This just works. Okay, now I switched to my endgame German Reich save, and here we can see some other division templates. So this is what I would go for when I have the industry to support armored divisions. With the smaller countries, it's very hard to have good armored divisions, especially early on, and you will be forced to pick a doctrine which is not armored oriented. But with Germany, of course, you can go for mobile warfare. And I would suggest doing this when you plan to rely heavily on your armored divisions. Again, you take the right path and then again the right path at the end. So let's look at what I'm using with Germany. Now, I'm using the same 10 combat with defensive divisions, but here we saved a little bit on support companies and we basically are only using the mandatory ones. This is a good defensive division, you know, this will protect your less important fronts from enemy attacks. And it's fairly cheap to make, so you can make a lot of these defensive divisions. Now, instead of the 27 combat with offensive divisions, we are using this multi-purpose 21 combat with divisions. Now, these ones are a bit cheaper to make. The combat width of 21 is pretty good overall, so it performs okay in all kind of terrains. This is mostly a defensive, as you can see, template. It has much less soft attack than the previous one we checked with Turkey. This is not only because of the design, but it is mostly because of the doctrines. In this case, we are not aiming at maximizing the soft attack on our infantry divisions. Now, once again, the last two support companies are not really needed, so consider this the priority order. And the rocket artillery, the anti-tank are very situational, you don't always need them. Now, we also have a motorized version of these infantry divisions. It's pretty similar, it has even better defense. Well, this is mostly because at this point of the game we are using mechanized infantry. Consider that earlier in the game this will be the same, but with motorized infantry, and we'll have slightly worse stats. Here we started with a motorized recon company because Germany already started with one. Other than that, we have the usual engineer company and support anti-air, but in this case I went for a logistics company as well to reduce the supply use. Now, I made a video about how to use motorized divisions efficiently. I will put the link up here so you can check it out. But I mostly use them to support my tank, my armored divisions, and to fill in the gaps in the extending fronts after attacking with my tanks. Okay, now we can start talking about serious stuff. Let's talk about my tank division templates. Now, this is the early game division template that I would use for tanks when I'm planning to invest in my tanks over the game. So Germany is a perfect example once again. Now, my favorite combat width with tanks is 33. You could go up, you could go all the way to 45 if you wanted to, but that makes the divisions much more expensive to produce. It means that you can have less of them on the battlefield. And since I like my tanks to have very good stats, I usually prefer a slightly smaller combat width, which means less supplies consumed and more divisions actually on the field. Now, while the stats are simply insanely good, in this case, we got an insane breakthrough, we got insane soft attack. These tanks just destroy everything. Let's briefly talk about the template. Now, when you use these tanks, it's very important that you go for mobile warfare, because that will increase the organization, which otherwise risks being a bit low with this design. So when you start the game, initially your organization will be a bit too low, but it will adjust over time as you get doctrines. As for the support companies, in this case, I would never give up on my motorized recon company because the movement bonus is insanely good. Of course, the engineer company is always good. It gives insane attack and defense bonuses. Support artillery, of course, gives some nice bonuses to soft attack. Logistics, for me, on tanks and motorized, it's always mandatory because the less supplies they consume, the more they can push, the deeper they can get into the enemy territories, the more likely they are to get encirclements. And finally, the medium flame tank company. This is absolutely fantastic. You can see the bonuses right there. Huge attack bonuses on most terrains. What are we lacking here is the anti-air support company, which is overall quite good on tanks, because tanks often get deep into the enemy territory, and they may get too far away from your airplanes to get full air superiority. And that's why I include the motorized anti-air battalion to overcome the lack of an anti-air support company. As we proceed into the game, I like changing this template slightly. And at this point of the game, this is a bit later, I assume I will get the air superiority, so I sacrifice that anti-air battalion. You could, if you wanted, you could replace the support artillery for an anti-air support company if you feel like you will not have the air superiority. Other than that, I would keep the same support companies, and I would change the design in this way. I would start including SPAs because they give insane bonuses to soft attack. You can see it right here. Our soft attack went up almost 200 from the previous design to this one. Now, in this case, we're also using mechanized, but depending on your researches and your industry, you can still use motorized. As for what designs I'm using for tanks and SPAs, I will show them in a separate video because I don't want to make this video too long, but I already made a video about tanks and about flame tanks, so you can find them up here, and I will include them also in the description of this video. Soon, by the way, I will make a new video concerning all of my new designs for tanks, SPAs, and flame tanks. Now, when you get to the very late game, you can replace your medium tanks for modern tanks, and this mostly increases the armor. Now, as you can see, I did not invest heavily in the armor with the previous templates. You can see here we only had 81, and here we only had 96. With modern, we go all the way up to 142, so much higher armor. Other than that, the stats are pretty similar, but the production cost is insanely higher. So this is more of a for fun endgame template. You want me to be completely honest with you, this early design can carry you all the way to the late game, and this medium design will dominate anything you need to dominate. Will literally carry your game. Let me briefly talk about a couple of things before we end the video. Early in the game, you may want to make a garrison division for your occupied territories. This is the cheapest, best option early in the game. Now, later in the game, when you have so much army experience you don't know what to do with it anymore, then you can make the endgame garrison with military police. And this is the best possible template for suppression. Now I will very briefly talk about the special troops. I actually want to make a separate video about them, so I will just show you quickly the design. You can pause the video and copy them, but I will not explain them. So this is the one for the Mountaineers, this is the one for Marines, and this is the one for paratroopers. But again, I will make a separate video dedicated to special forces. Okay guys, this covers pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Also feel free to write down in the comments below what you think about the video, what you think about my templates, and what you would do differently. Now, before you do so, let me add just one more thing. Now, there is another design which is very popular, and it is to use just one tank, a medium tank usually, to your infantry divisions. And this tank would be designed specifically to maximize the armor, and this would make your infantry division have enough armor not to be pierced by the enemy infantry divisions. Now, this is extremely powerful, and that's why I'm mentioning it here at the end of the video. By all means, if you want to do so, you can. I don't particularly like this mechanic. I know it's historically accurate to have tanks together with infantry battalions, but what I don't like is designing a tank which is only there to increase the overall armor value of the infantry division so that they cannot be pierced anymore. To me, it feels like cheating the game a little bit, so I don't like doing that, but that's another absolutely viable option. Now that's really all, so thank you for watching and see you in the next video.